What if I told you that Japan's famous obsession with the four seasons was actually created as a way to cope with nature's chaos? That this beautiful connection to nature we all admire is actually one of history's most sophisticated survival mechanisms. And more importantly, what if you could cultivate this same deep seasonal awareness in your own life starting today? Hi, I'm Josh from Shizen Style, and if you've ever felt overwhelmed by the unpredictability of life, the storms, the setbacks, the seasons of struggle, then what you're about to discover will be life-changing. Because according to Harvard scholar Haruo Shirane's groundbreaking research, Japan's celebrated culture of the four seasons isn't an ancient truth. It's a masterpiece of cultural construction that began about 1200 years ago as a way to transform chaos into beauty. And the best part? You can learn to do this too. Here's what blew my mind when I first read Shirane's work during my doctoral studies at Osaka University. Japan doesn't actually have four seasons, it has five. There's spring, summer, the rainy season, which can bring devastating floods and typhoons, autumn, and winter. But here's the genius part. Japanese art and culture systematically ignores the rainy season. It's like the chaos doesn't exist. As Shirane puts it, this reveals the gap between the natural environment and its cultural representation. But this wasn't deception, this was survival. When you can't control nature's chaos, you can still control how you respond to it. And this is something every single one of us can learn to do in our own lives. So where did this brilliant coping strategy begin? Picture this. It's 8th century Japan, and you're part of the urban elite in the imperial court. You're not living some romantic life close to nature. You're dealing with political intrigue, natural disasters, and the harsh realities of medieval life. These court nobles were facing the same thing we all face. How do you find beauty and meaning when life feels chaotic and unpredictable? Their solution? They created what we now call waka poetry, and they became obsessed with seasonal imagery. Cherry blossoms, autumn leaves, singing warblers. But again, here's the genius part. They weren't writing about nature as it actually was. Listen to how Shirane puts it. This was not an engagement with primary nature, but with reconstructed nature in an urban setting. They were creating what he calls secondary nature, aesthetically crafted representations of nature that beautify and idealize the environment. As Shirane explains, the aestheticization of the seasons became a means of beautifying and making elegant what was often a harsh and unpredictable natural environment. This wasn't denial, this was transformation. When you can't control earthquakes, typhoons, and floods, you can still control how you respond to them by creating beauty. And here's what changed everything for me. This is exactly what we do in Japanese garden design, in photography composition, in ikigai practice. We don't just observe nature, we collaborate with it to create meaning from chaos. This is one of the reasons I love black and white photography and fine art photography in general. Under that label, we're not expected to be photojournalists. We are creating art through an interpretation of a scene that we see, allowing our moods and emotions to affect the outcome of what we produce. But here's where it gets really powerful. And this is something that completely transformed how I approach difficult seasons in my own life. This secondary nature wasn't just court entertainment. It became a cultural survival tool that spread through every layer of Japanese society. When earthquakes struck, when typhoons hit, when life felt overwhelming, people had this framework for finding beauty and meaning, even in the chaos. And you can develop this same skill. Watch how this seasonal aesthetic took over Japanese culture. Visual arts, screens and paintings that showed idealized seasonal scenes, not realistic ones. Material culture, kimono designs that became walking canvases of seasonal symbolism. You weren't just wearing clothes, you were embodying the season itself. Shirane describes how court ladies had specific sleeve colors for each phase of spring. Crimson plum for the second month, cherry blossom for the first to third months, yellow caria for the third month. If you wore the wrong color for the season, you'd literally be socially ridiculed. Performative arts. No theater where every gesture, every prop connected to seasonal meaning. And food. The tea ceremony transformed eating and drinking into a seasonal meditation. When I lived in Japan, I experienced this firsthand. My wife Satomi, who's a chef, taught me that Japanese cuisine isn't just about taste. It's about capturing the essence of the season on your plate. Every meal is a form of secondary nature. But here's the deeper truth Shirane reveals. This wasn't just aesthetic preference. These seasonal representations served what he calls talismanic functions. They were meant to bring protection and good fortune. Think about ikebana, flower arrangement. Shirane explains that there were specific rules. Flowers for going off to battle should not use camellia, maple, azalea, or other plants whose flowers or leaves scatter easily, because scattering would be a bad omen. This seasonal aesthetic wasn't just beautiful, it was a survival technology for the soul. But here's where it gets really interesting for us today. By the Edo period, this seasonal awareness had spread through all levels of society, creating what Shirane calls a seasonal pyramid. At the top were the classical, elegant seasonal words from court poetry. Things like cherry blossoms, the moon, snow. In the middle were more common natural images like spring, rain, and willow. And at the bottom, everyday life experiences like cat's love, literally cats in heat, garlic and dandelions. What I love about this is that it shows you don't need to start with perfect Instagram-worthy seasonal awareness. You can begin with noticing when your neighbor's cat gets frisky in spring, or when dandelions first appear in your yard. The seasonal aesthetic is still everywhere in modern Japan. Haiku poetry, flower arrangement, restaurant menus that change with the seasons, even the way people dress and decorate their homes. But here's what fascinates me about Shirane's research. He shows us that this entire cultural system was built on what he calls a fundamental truth about climate and geography. Listen to this. Japan is far from a mild climate. It has a severe monsoon season with annual flooding, hot summers, and typhoons. Instead of gentle topography, Japan is mountainous and volcanic, sitting on a fault zone with frequent earthquakes and tsunamis. The beautiful four-season Japan we think we know, it systematically ignores an entire season. The brutal rainy season with its floods and typhoons. As Shirane puts it, some climatologists believe Japan has 5 seasons, not 4. But here's the most profound insight Shirane offers. This beautiful seasonal aesthetic emerged precisely because they were destroying the actual natural world. Rice agriculture led to deforestation and destruction of wild nature, creating what they call Hageyama, literally bald mountains, stripped hills that caused landslides and environmental devastation. Shirane puts it perfectly. Secondary nature fostered and idealized a sense of harmony with the natural world, just at the moment it was disappearing. But on the other hand, I understand people have to live. This completely changed how I think about our own relationship with nature today. When I'm photographing a carefully composed garden scene, or capturing the perfect autumn moment, am I also creating my own secondary nature? And is that okay? Or does art allow us that freedom to explore? And that's something that sets us apart from animals. I think it's okay as long as we're honest about what we're doing. We're not just documenting reality. We're creating meaning, beauty, and psychological resilience. We're participating in this ancient human practice of transforming chaos into something that nourishes the soul. Here's why this matters for your own life. Shirane's research shows us that deep cultural connection to nature and the ability to transform chaos into beauty isn't something you're born with. It's something you can cultivate. The Japanese didn't inherit some mystical seasonal gene. When faced with earthquakes, typhoons, and the unpredictability of island life, they created practices, developed aesthetic sensibilities, and built cultural habits that help them find beauty and meaning even in difficult seasons. And you can build your own seasonal pyramid. Start simple. Notice when the dandelions first appear, when you hear different birds, when the light changes. Then gradually develop more refined seasonal awareness. Think about your own life right now. What harsh seasons are you experiencing? What chaos feels overwhelming? The same principles that created Japan's seasonal culture can help you transform your relationship with difficulty. Whether it's through photography that captures fleeting moments of beauty, gardening that creates order from wilderness, or simply developing the practice of noticing what's beautiful, even on difficult days. You can create your own secondary nature. If this kind of deep dive into Japanese aesthetics and how they can transform your daily life resonates with you, I want to invite you to join my newsletter, Shizen Style Weekly. Every week, I share insights about Japanese concepts like wabi-sabi and yugen and ikigai, photography techniques that capture the essence of natural flow, and practical ways to bring more nature and creative flow into your modern life. The link is in the description below, and I promise no spam, just thoughtful content that helps you navigate your own Shizen style and gets you through the day. Before you go, I'm curious, how do you connect with the seasons in your own life? Do you have any seasonal rituals or practices? And what's your own secondary nature? How do you transform difficult moments into something beautiful? Let me know in the comments. And if this changed how you think about Japanese culture or gave you ideas for your own creative practice, hit the like button and consider subscribing for more content that bridges ancient wisdom with modern living. Until next time, keep creating your own seasonal pyramid. And remember, you don't need cherry blossoms to find beauty in the world around you.